Hello everybody, welcome back to the Level 1 show. Today is August 31st and we're doing business and robot links today.
A little weird, we usually do robots on Fridays, but...
The stories were... Well, we talked about security, kind of had a long section too this week because of everything.
And business is always the big one because, of course, companies want to talk about what they're doing in business. They want to get the hype going. They want to hype you up. Now, let's get you hyped about chip fabs.
Ooh, Intel Brookfield to invest up to $30 billion in Arizona chip factories. Meanwhile, the water crisis continues on.
Yeah. Brookfield is a Canadian finance company, and they are looking to pour some money into Intel to make these fabs. Of course, this will take years to play out, but what was that noise?
It sounds like a car messed up outside. I don't know if the mics picked that up.
So this is more of the same. You know, we're building chips. We need money. And these people want a piece of it. They're going to take a 49% stake. Quite a bit of investment. Mm. Now, I recall, Wendell would know exactly. He would be able to quote this probably. But when AMD did the chiplets, Intel crapped on them a little bit.
Yeah.
They were kind of making fun of like, oh, you want to put them together in pieces? That's stupid. That'll never work. It worked. It worked quite well. And then Apple stepped up and they did the exact same thing. And so now...
Why stacking chips like pancakes could mean faster and cheaper laptops.
Yeah, Intel getting into it. They're not just going to put them side by side. They also want to stack them vertically. Actually, I think that's an example of the side by side one. I don't know if they have a picture of the vertical one.
I'm not sure.
But yeah, they're a big believer that we're no longer going to try to shrink the transistors. We are now just going to just smash them together.
All together.
Like
it's funny that Intel is always, it seems like they're always behind a little bit.
Like a s'more. You just heat it up and just smash it.
A delicious, crunchy metal s'more.
I don't know. It could be good. I mean, it's worked for AMD and Apple, right? So if Intel makes better chips, it's probably good for everybody. Unless they're the only one doing it. We've lived through that.
Yeah.
And Apple is, they've announced a big thing this week. Oh, let me make sure I got these in the right order.
I think you...
Oh, no.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, good thing. So they made this big announcement. Right to repair. Oh, my God, finally. Finally, Apple is going to let us. Well, they already had the repair program, but now MacBooks. They have added MacBooks to the self-repair options.
Apple expands self-repair support to MacBooks.
Which
is surprising considering how thin and glued together they kind of are.
Yeah, and you still have to get the kit.
Right.
And you still have to buy the parts from Apple. And it turns out there may be some hidden barbs in amongst all of that.
Apple's repair program creates excruciating gauntlet of hurdles, iFixit says. What a descriptive, way of saying it.
Seems accurate. Now, they're focusing on the battery replacement. What would you expect to pay for a new battery for your laptop? Keep in mind this is Apple, so everything's double the price.
$500.
Well, actually, you're over it.
I am.
You might have read the article. So $400. Why does it cost $400?
Still seems like a lot.
Because they will not sell you a battery. You must purchase this entire top half of the box.
Yeah.
And the battery, I guess, soldered onto that and must all be swapped out. After you do that, you got all the security stuff to step through. You have to re-register all the stuff. You got to put it all back together. You have to pay for the entire repair kit, like usual, which is another, I don't remember how much that was.
They're purposely making it so expensive that no one will do it.
You have to, $50 for the repair kit. You have to do it within 14 days. If that repair kit is not returned in 14 days, you're paying for it.
And if you miss even one component, you also get charged.
And there's a 162-page manual explaining how to change the battery.
They just weren't designed for it. I wonder in the future, and it seems like they won't do this, but you would think that they would eventually start designing their laptops where it wouldn't be this song and dance every time.
Oh, no, they absolutely did the opposite.
Oh, yeah. Planned obsolescence, so you keep buying Apple products.
This is exactly what they want. Now they can say, hey, we let you repair
tried.
them. Why don't you repair it? Are you stupid? And $500 later, if you screw up something and break it, now you're out $500 and your laptop still doesn't have a battery. Congratulations for choosing Apple. It's what you deserve. And we have seen
It's a siren.
the popo.
I don't know if that. I don't think the mic's probably picked that up, but
We've seen a lot of Chinese nationals accused of stealing trade secrets. Like we say, they do tend to steal the trade secrets. And once in a while we catch them.
former Apple engineer accused of stealing automotive trade secrets pleads guilty.
Now this guy's got a weird story. He went back to China for paternity leave. So he fathered a child and then immediately came to America and got a job? Like what?
Maybe.
Did the woman go with him or?
Yeah, maybe maybe him and his wife both lived in the U.S. and maybe they wanted the grandparents to meet.
Or maybe they wanted the kid to be born in China?
Well, I mean, like they could have had the kid and then flown back to China for the family to meet the baby.
But does that kid automatically get Chinese citizenship?
Not if he was born here.
So then maybe that's what they want.
Maybe.
Anyway, he went back, did his paternity leave, and came back, and he was like, hey, guys, I hate to tell you this, but I'm loving China so much that I'm going to go back there for good. And they were like, all right, Xiaolang, we wish you the best. And then he downloaded some files. And that was recorded, and he was stopped at the airport, and he had the files.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sucks for the kid.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to grow up probably without a dad.
You think they're going to, it's like, oh, yeah, your dad, he's in the military. He's serving in the U.S. Or they could just tell him that they could still go to get old versions of the website. It's like, no, he works at Apple.
He does, yeah.
He's brilliant. And a little bit of hardware news. We have the new Samsung SSD, and according to them, it is really fast.
Samsung debuts the 990 Pro Series SSD with big speed and efficiency improvements.
They claim you will not beat this on PCI 4. You must move to PCI 5 to squeeze more out of this. You got 7,450 megabytes per second read and write 6,900 megabytes per second. 69.
Uh-huh.
So get yourself one of those. This story, unfortunately, it was like I was excited to talk about, oh my God, they're gobbling up everything.
Yeah.
I guess it's been
It's
refuted.
a rumor. Reports refute rumors of Amazon buying Electronic Arts. So this was, there was a rumor that Amazon was buying up yet again another company, but now people are saying that was not true.
But EA is not a small,
No, not at all.
unknown technology.
But it wouldn't surprise me if Amazon did want them, because Amazon's trying to do its own gaming thing with like Twitch.
But every time Amazon has stepped into gaming, they've
It's
failed.
been bad, yeah.
I don't know why they can't get that right. Also, it was interesting when we were talking about this earlier. I feel like you have no awareness of who John Madden was.
No, I had none at all.
I wonder how many kids playing John Madden on their console understand who he was versus just like, oh no, he's the video game guy. Like
Yeah, they probably don't.
Guy.
I had no idea who. I mean, I don't follow any sports. I had to look up Tom Brady. I couldn't remember his name. I was like, he's married to the supermodel. Because I watched a home tour on Architect's Digest where she talked about it. And she's like, oh, I'm married to Tom Brady. And I was like, oh, that's the football guy.
If we surveyed the entire planet somehow, what do you think the difference, like the percentages would be of people who are only aware of Tom Brady because of Gisele Bündchen versus the people who are only aware of Gisele Bündchen because of Tom Brady?
That'd be an interesting cross.
I
I feel like she's probably not as relevant anymore since, like, wasn't her heyday kind of in the late 90s?
Well, she has this much smaller window than he does. I mean, a football player has a very small window. Victoria's Secret model, even smaller.
Yeah.
She
They're pretty wealthy, though. I mean, that house was incredible.
Oh, my God, yeah.
It was a beautiful house.
I mean, she did well, I'm sure. She
Yeah.
probably has, like, perfume and makeup.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like, all sorts
Hair
of
care, yeah.
Imagine if she went on OnlyFans. This is on the edge of tech stories, but it is tech, and it just does show more and more of where we're heading in this country and everywhere in the world.
Ford to cut 3,000 jobs amid restructuring. Another week, another headline of restructuring.
They didn't really mince words. They were just like, we've sort of like decided to reorganize a little bit, change how things are done, and we realized that we don't need most of you. So, let you go. Also, they call their work stuff Ford Plus. Everybody's
just a plus
It's
now,
always a
yeah.
plus.
What if you really wanted to go against the grain, it'd be minus, right?
Oh, but you can't say minus.
Level 1 text minus.
We should change Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon and Floatplane, instead of saying both of those, we'll just say it's L1 minus.
We are eliminating work as well as reorganizing and simplifying functions. So I think they're going to cut back in a big way. I wonder how the UAW is going to feel about this. I'm sure they do not care for it. A while back, we talked about Gmail. Gmail said free forever.
And then they changed. I got caught up in that.
One day they were just like, hey, you know how we said free forever? That was a lie. Give us money. And that seems to, other companies have seen that and they're like, hey, that's a good business model. We should do more of that.
Transcription service Otter is making free users pay to access older recordings. So the thing with Gmail was that it was like universities and big corporations and stuff that were using Gmail that got their free access revoked. This seems like it's everybody who was at the free tier.
Obviously, transcription service, some of the biggest users are going to be doctors and lawyers. Now, first of all, HIPAA probably has some issues with that being stored on their server, right? If you're a doctor.
Yeah.
But a legal team, if you've got this mass archives of recordings of notes you made about old cases, some of which might still be active, and all of a sudden you got to pay $25 to get to that, that's a raw deal.
I mean, lawyers can probably tank that cost, but other professions might not be able to.
Oh, maybe it's not $25. It's $25. The most they're doing like Twitch. It's a rolling 25. So when you record a new one, you lose the 25th entry, and then you have to subscribe.
Wow.
Can you read those prices, please?
No, they're very small. But also, it tells you something that like maybe it's not very clear when you have to have that big of a table to explain.
There's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. Also, you got to think that most of that transcription is being done by an AI at this point, right?
Maybe.
Probably just have somebody look it over after it's done. How'd you pronounce this?
I said Pinduoduo. I don't know if that's correct.
I think they probably say it a lot faster than you do.
Pinduoduo.
Yeah, I bet that's almost exactly how they say it. I've never heard of it.
I hadn't either.
Yeah, so obviously it's basically the Chinese Amazon. So,
but apparently even cheaper than Amazon, which is wow.
And the question is, how do you make Amazon even cheaper than Amazon? Amazon is already basically trying to kill its workers. And the answer seems to be just kill them harder.
Chinese behemoth Pinduoduo to take it on Amazon in the US with even worse labor practices. Apparently in December, in a 1 or 2 week period, they had 2 or 3 people die.
One was a suicide.
Yeah.
Because of the expectations. Another one
died of exhaustion, I think.
And then one woman collapsed and someone posted it online, the video of the collapse, and then that person was fired for posting it online. And they're like, we're not firing them for posting the video. We're firing them for not being like on the team and not respecting the company. And she had a stomach problem, by the way. It was nothing to do with work exhaustion.
Working for 24 hours straight.
But man, if you're an Amazon driver and you find out that this is coming to town, that's gotta hurt.
I guess so. I need some more context. I should have looked up a little bit more, but like, chat, if you've heard of this, because I feel like Amazon has gotten considerably worse over the years for like cheap crap. I can't imagine it being any worse.
I think they sell themselves as sort of like the big lots of online retailers.
Yeah, they mentioned that like the way that they've done it in China is that they mostly target small rural communities.
Right.
And then they order stuff from manufacturers like wholesale, and that's how they're able to get their costs so low.
The big thing that they sell, and I can definitely see some Eastern Kentucky people doing this, is that it's all baked into social media.
Yeah.
So you can initiate a group buy. So like you say, if I want to buy some toilet paper, right? Well, I can give you 12 rolls, and it's going to cost X. Or I could give you 120 rolls, and it's going to cost X minus 5. And you're like, well, 120 rolls might take me some time to go through that, but I could get my people together on Facebook. Yeah. We'll do a group buy. We'll get that sweet
Everybody
price.
in the holler will all pitch in for it.
And they facilitate that.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Well, we talked about the NSO Group. Now they're not the only game in town when it comes to government spyware. A dangerous time for them, I would say, but not quite as dangerous as the trouble they're getting in for selling the spyware, which has led to this.
Israeli spyware company NSO Group's CEO steps down. That kind of says to me, is like, does he smell the blood in the water? Is he trying to get out now?
Well,
Golden parachute.
He doesn't need to smell it. He put the blood there.
Yeah.
He's well familiar with how much blood is in the water, but I guess the time is coming up.
He's reading texts from like EU leadership, and he's like, ooh, they're mad.
Now, a couple of the EU leadership did weigh in on this, and they're like, well, he can quit all he wants. It doesn't change the investigations.
Yeah.
He's still going to be on the hook if we find out he was doing those things, which he probably was. The COO will take over for now, and they are on the search. Man, would you take that job?
No.
You'd make a lot of money, but, well,
maybe that's the plan. Maybe you get all the money, then you just cut and run.
Yeah, but you could be facing serious, serious consequences. Although I don't think Israel will ever give him up.
You don't think?
They might to the right government, but they probably won't. And I don't think many governments will force them to because Israel does what it wants. PS5 is still difficult to get. Didn't you say you were looking for one for a family member or something last year?
Back around Christmas, my cousin wanted to get one for her son, and like they were so...
Did they get one?
I don't think so, no. They were so high. Like the prices were so high she couldn't find one.
It seems like this year will be another Christmas where the PS5 is the hot new
console, yeah.
Because we don't have any chips to make anything new, and we're certainly not going to cycle into a new console.
Aren't there only like a handful of games that were made exclusively for the PS5 too?
I don't keep up with the console stuff.
Yeah, I think I saw an article about that recently.
But if you want a low-cost entry into the metaverse, I guess maybe you could go this way if you can find one.
Sony says the PlayStation VR 2 is coming in early 2023. They said very early 2023, so maybe trying to catch some Christmas hype.
Weird that they would wait till after the holidays.
Yeah. Though. Maybe it's not ready. Maybe there's probably some executives like, we really need it for Christmas, and there's someone in that company who's like, absolutely not. We're not ready. And this is the compromise. This is sometime in 2023.
And they're like, listen, we could maybe do January, but we'll have to do an emergency update in February. And everybody will complain about everything that's broken until then. And the Sony executives were like, we can live with that.
Yeah. Oh, let's do that.
Yeah. Early 23, press release. Now, the thing about it is, you can see you got one cable powering the whole thing. And it actually does not need the external monitors. The monitors for your movement are built into the hardware.
I think that's interesting. There's another one they said was like that. I can't remember which one it was.
I think it's the
Quest.
the Oculus. And Zuckerberg's new VR is going to beat them to the market.
Ooh.
Probably. Which they can't be happy about.
I still feel like VR is a little bit niche, partly because it's expensive, but also because you kind of need a dedicated space for it, and a lot of people don't have that.
But maybe not with this, right? You just need enough room to flail around because it doesn't require the setup.
I wonder eventually if VR becomes more mainstream, will it kill the coffee table? It's like, oh, you can't have room for a coffee table. You got to have room to do VR.
Maybe somebody will design a coffee table that's easy to move out of the way.
Everyone has them on wheels from now on.
Oh,
and that'll be a thing in like the antique market where it's like, you can tell that this was made before 2022 because it doesn't have the casters on it to remove it for VR. And everyone will be like, oh, on Antique Roadshow.
How about a pulley with chains and you have a hanging coffee table and then you just pull it up out of the way and it has lighting on the bottom side of it to light up your VR space.
Except, what if I want a ceiling fan?
No.
There's no ceiling fans. That's also a marker of a house built before 2022.
My house was built almost the same time I was born, and my living room has no lighting.
I've noticed that a lot. Ours is not that way, but like the apartment I used to live in was like that. You just had to plug lamps in, and then the lamps were on the switch.
Yeah, the light switch controls the top outlet on every outlet and not the bottom.
That's bizarre.
And I can't tell you how many times I've been scratching my head like, what am I doing wrong here? And it's just because I don't have those top outlets turned on.
Yeah. It's weird.
Not a great way to do things.
No.
What were we thinking in the 80s? What were they thinking when they birthed us?
Into this hellscape.
And as we said, Sony, the PS5 is probably going to be the new hotness for this holiday season. So obviously, if you're the company that has the new hotness,
Sony raises PlayStation 5 prices outside of the US, citing economic challenges. That's interesting that they did it only outside of the US, because the US is also kind of having economic challenges.
but strong dollar.
Yeah.
They can take those dollars and take them to the other places because they have business everywhere and arbitrage them by trading them with weaker currencies.
They're, like I said, they were really expensive when my cousin was trying to find one, and she ended up not getting one. She's like, I'm not paying double the price for something.
Seems like it's about $50 for the Ultra Edition. Oh, Mexico, it's only going up $14.99.
Well, that's not as bad.
Is that the... That's not in pesos, right? Looks like that's in dollars.
Yeah, I think that's dollars.
Canada, they didn't list a... Wow, Canada's $6.50.
Whew.
Wow. Is the Canadian dollar that bad right now?
I'm not sure.
And Sony also in a little bit of hot water because obviously, even though... do the new ones even have disk drives?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if that's true or not. But mostly, everybody's buying stuff online. They have an online store. Much like every other online store in existence, except Epic. They charge 30%.
PlayStation hit by $5.9 billion lawsuit for ripping people off on digital games.
I mean, everybody does it. It's going to be a tough...
Yeah.
This is in the UK, and they're saying that, Sony is so powerful in the digital space, you don't really have competition. If you want to develop video games, you kind of got to play ball with Sony. It's not true. You could always just go to Steam, but Steam charges 30%.
Yeah.
And Framework is the new modular laptop. They're very open source. They run Linux. Very anti-Apple.
Yes.
The antithesis of Apple. So much that this part that we're talking about is not for sale. This is a free 3D printed file that they will give you.
Oh, no. Lenovo doesn't like Framework's circular power button.
Now, you're a designer, Krista. It is very similar. So we've got it here. It's a circle with 3 spokes in it. There's the
comparison. It is pretty similar. I imagine that was probably coincidental. But I don't understand. Here's what I don't understand. Why not just use the standard power icon, which is like a circle with a line?
They probably didn't put the main engineers in charge of doing the free 3D printed download. They're just like, oh, hey, have some fun with this. Just do whatever.
For me, like, it's not worth the fight. I'd be like, oh, I'll just change it to a standard power icon.
If you want
which
one
would be
these,
more clear for a user anyway.
Now, this is a case for a smaller board that you can get from them. If you have one of those, I would recommend you go and get that file as soon as possible before it's illegal.
Yeah.
And then you can have the cool power button.
I mean, again, if I was in this position, I'd be like, this is not worth fighting over.
Oh, no, they're not going to fight. Actually, they have, you could take part in this, Krista. They're doing a contest to redesign the power button.
Just use the damn standard power icon.
That is not him.
Nothing makes me more angry than like mystery meat navigation or icons that don't have a meaning but are just there because they look nice.
That's like 50% of our world right now.
Yeah, I hate that. Icons should have meaning. If you just put something there and it doesn't mean anything, just take it out. Your design doesn't need it.
By definition, icons have meaning.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a picture.
Oh, the block. So Ethereum, we found out last week that they had said, yes, it's happening in September. Now we know exactly when. There will be 2 updates.
Ethereum Foundation confirms September dates for the merge.
That will be, I don't remember the exact dates. 10th and the 20th.
I'm so looking forward to fall. Reading September and realizing it's a month away. It's like, oh, not even a month away by the time they see this.
September is usually kind of a nice transition month.
Yeah. I mean, it'll probably still be hot at the beginning, but then it'll start getting cooler.
But it's hot during the day, but then at night, it's like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
It's fire pit weather.
You got a fire pit?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I mean, it's not like a built-in one, but we have a fire pit.
You know what you can do? You could get your fire pit and put your deer skull over it.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be
My
really
friend
cool.
messaged me before we started, and she was like, I have another deer skull. Can I bury it? And I was like, yeah, that's fine.
When are you going to start saying no? How many deer skulls are too many deer skulls?
Well, it's funny because she works at this wildlife place. She does trail management and controlled burns and stuff like that. And they also have to deal with wildlife. If it gets hit, they have to test it and blah, blah, blah. But then at the end of it, they either toss it out or she can keep bits if she wants. So like she wants the deer heads for art projects, but she also collecting like butterfly wings and like feathers, and she's got like a whole little collection of like things that she's gotten from the nature preserve she works at.
She's getting into witchcraft. Did you see that video I posted in Teams?
About the chronic
deer,
wasting disease.
The zombie, they found one, and that was incredible because it was just sitting there and its tail was twitching.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was just locked in place.
Yeah, so they're testing for it at the place she works at. They have not found one yet, but she says they are being required by the state.
So wait a minute. How do you become a deer that gets its head cut off if you're not exhibiting symptoms?
Roadkill. So like, so they'll have, people drive through and they die and they have to do tests on it.
You probably didn't watch till the end of that video, but the last frame of that video is the one cop, and like they say something I couldn't quite make out. And he was like, "Yeah, I got one in my car," and it's him racking the shotgun.
I saw that. I saw the shotgun because I did scroll through it a little bit. And I was like, "Did he just pull out a shotgun?"
But I guess that is what you should do, right? Because
yeah.
Now, if you blast that thing in the head and those brains go everywhere, are those whatever spores or whatever going to be?
I don't know. So she said that they have to be really careful when they take the samples and stuff like that. And she said they haven't found one yet, but they're worried about it where she is. So
that was wild. That deer was just standing there.
They don't know if it transfers to humans either, which is terrifying.
Now, one of the symptoms I was reading about it after I watched that video, one of the symptoms is aggression.
Yeah.
So we're going to have like killer zombie deer.
I buried that deer head last week, and since we've buried it, we've seen like 5 deer in the backyard, and I'm like, is it summoning them at this point?
Oh, they're deer necromancers.
Yeah.
They're attracted to your witchcraft. What would you do if you went to dig it up and it wasn't there anymore?
I'd probably assume an animal got it. We tamped the dirt down pretty hard, and we put logs over it to make sure it wouldn't get dug up, but hopefully in a few months she'll have the skull and she can paint it.
What color do you paint a deer skull?
Oh, you've not seen that? Where like people usually do it with like cow skulls, but they like paint like designs on it and stuff, and then display them. That's kind of a thing.
Something to be excited about for sure. Follow Krista's Twitter for
deer
hot
skull.
deer skull content.
I've been recording. I recorded the first session of digging it and like her explanation of what was happening. So we might put that on Patreon and Floatplane on L1 minus, maybe. That'll be a while before it's rotted.
Zombie deers are a big concern, but what about zombie software? We've been fighting this fight for decades, and they keep saying the same thing over and over, in that doesn't affect performance at all. That has been proven untrue over and over
and over.
Some game companies go so far as to remove it later on because they realize what a bad experience it is.
Notorious DRM company takes aim at Switch piracy. Update.
This is Lenovo. The update was Lenovo's response, which was just a bunch of corporate nonsense.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're saying that because the Switch, again, they'll sell you the cartridge. Although in a lot of cases, those cartridges don't have the game on them. It just takes you to the store and downloads it and unlocks your ability to play it. So the problem here, though, is not jailbroken Switches. It is emulation. Because the Switch, not a super powerful console, relatively, especially relative to a brand new CPU and GPU. So you can emulate at 60 FPS almost every game they've got. And they don't care for that.
How dare you improve the experience?
And anime lovers, what do you think the cross-section of anime lovers and hackers?
Pretty significant. More than you would think.
That's definitely not 2 circles, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no.
That's more of just like a butt shape.
A thin sliver on either side.
Yeah, something like that.
Streaming service Crunchyroll blocks privacy-focused email Tutanota because hackers use it.
I feel like you should, again, say it way faster to make it...
Tutanota.
Tutanota?
I don't like how that is said, but...
It's not a fun word to say. So this is, it's kind of like Proton Mail, where they have end-to-end encryption and you can sign up without telling them a billion different things about yourself. So it does tend to attract some of the more hackish types. And they reached out to Crunchyroll and they're like, hey, why not? And then they responded, they're like, yes, you have hackers. We don't want you. And then at the end of
Sounds
it,
like you have lice. You have hackers.
his last line, have an amazing weekend.
Oh. Have an amazing weekend with the tone of go F yourself.
Is Crunchyroll the only anime streaming service? I'm surprised nobody else has gotten into that.
It's the big. I'm sure there's others, but that's the only one I've ever really heard of. That's the big one.
Can you watch like those old Cartoon Networks? Can you watch like Dragon Ball Z?
Oh, I'm sure.
Think they're
Yeah.
on there? Well, TikTok owner ByteDance, they are constantly trying to branch out into new territory and to do new things because they have got so much money.
Yeah.
But they are met at every point with pushback from regulators and governments and so forth. This one, I'm sure, is not going to be welcomed.
TikTok owner ByteDance quietly launches a search app in Wukong, China. Oh, no, wait. The name of the search app is Wukong, in China, where Google is banned.
So, why would you use Wukong over Baidu? No ads.
I thought that was strange. I was like, what's the monetization scheme then?
Well, the monetization scheme is that while it does not prioritize ads like Google does, it does prioritize TikTok and all of their other properties that they own.
I mean, to be fair, if you do a video search on Google, it prioritizes YouTube.
Now, they had Soguo. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And that shutdown wasn't popular, and this immediately took its place. They also have a Wikipedia-style thing in China, and that is also very heavily weighted in their search results, at least as far as people can tell.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, I would be surprised if it wasn't.
it was interesting here. The 21-year-old college student, Zexi,
I don't think that's how that's pronounced, but
died of a rare cancer that he received experimental treatments recommended by Baidu. So, I guess the government didn't care for that, and they used that as sort of like a
thing to shut it down.
an example of what it's still there, but will the people adopt? What's it called? Wukong.
Wukong, yeah. I thought that was the name of the town, but that's actually the name of the thing.
And of course, a lot of talk about the climate, right? It's
The coldest summer that we'll remember.
and boy, China is really getting punished right now.
Everybody is.
We seem to be like it's still hotter than normal, right?
Yeah,
Year
I think,
over year,
yeah.
but I think we're through it.
Well, yeah, Kentucky, yeah. Where we are has actually had a fairly average summer, I would say. Other than the floods.
It was pretty warm. China, on the other hand, has their rivers are as low as they've ever been. Heat that's high as it's ever been. It's just insane there. And so the world is obsessed with carbon and emissions, right?
Google airbrushes out emissions from flying, BBC reveals.
So, hands off our bellies.
Oh.
And what's going on here is Google, when you go to book a flight on Google Flights, it will tell you your carbon cost of taking that flight. So you can be more conscientious.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
The problem is they have just changed the way that they calculate that. And they're leaving out what the BBC claims is one of the biggest factors. Actually, multiple factors, I think. One of them is the contrails and the way that they affect the clouds and stuff. Apparently that has an impact, a pretty big impact. And a couple other things that they're ignoring. Now, Google's like, well, we think that's a better calculation to do it that way, blah, 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 a bunch of newspeak. And then they asked them, why? Why did you make this decision now? Because you used to have it the old way, and the old way was the accurate one. And they're like, well,
we were paid not to care.
we talked to some industry insiders, and we all together felt like it was better to do it this way.
In other words, people aren't flying as much as they used to.
Oh boy, are they not.
Yeah. I was afraid I was going to have to fly the other week, and I was like, please don't make me have to go back there.
That would be a long flight.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad, but it's annoying.
We are not used to sitting quietly. I mean, these days, my attention span, oh man.
Getting worse every day.
You ever read about endorphin fasting?
Is that like you just get off the internet? And
You don't just get off the internet. You're supposed to starve yourself of any stimulus. basically just sit quietly in your own head for a weekend. Or go to a cabin with no connectivity. And then, much like not eating sugar, that's supposed to reset your endorphin levels. So, like, let's say that you do that and then you come back and you play Overwatch. It's just going to be like your head's going to explode from the happiness
of playing again. Yeah.
Because I don't know if that's true, but
I do find that, like, when I go on a backpacking trip for a weekend, I usually come back and I'm like, I don't know, more relaxed, I guess, because you don't spend nearly as much time on phones or anything. Like, I still take pictures, but...
Meanwhile, I find it hard to sit through a movie at home without pausing it and doing something else because it bores me. Maybe that's just because modern movies are trash.
I think most modern movies are pretty trash.
But certainly means I will not be lining up for this.
MoviePass returns with a new model and without the iconic red card, coming to theaters soon.
Now, the old MoviePass was appealing, you have to admit.
Yeah, but the reason it worked was because it was incredibly unprofitable for MoviePass.
But during those couple of months, or however long it was, I think it was like 6 months it was in business, you could have watched a lot of movies for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, what we're doing this time is we're switching to a point model. So there's 3 price tiers, 10, 20, and 30 each month. For those each tier, you'll be allocated a number of points. And then
Credits,
you will spend those points on individual movies. How many points do you need to watch a movie? They didn't say.
I bet it depends on the movie. So if it's like the hot new like Marvel movie, you'll probably have to pay twice as many credits.
Opening day. Opening day movie's probably going to be double credits at least. And how much will $10 get you 2 movies? That's still money losing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Certainly time of day will change it, but they're not.
I hate how dishonest that feels because it kind of obfuscates the cost of everything when you do it with that credit system.
They didn't.
It's like a PUBG with their weird battle points or whatever.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, and I bet it's not the way that you would want it to be. Will they let you roll points over to the next month, or will they reset you every month?
I bet they reset you. I don't think MoviePass is ever going to be viable.
Somebody in the comments pointed out that the guy who has purchased MoviePass and is trying to refurbish it is the same guy. Remember the story we did where he was working on technology that you held your phone during the ad so they could make sure you were looking at the ad. So you can imagine he's not going to be pro-consumer.
No.
The new MoviePass.
This was okay. So why was this included? Was it just because it's like?
You didn't read all of it.
I read through most of it, but I was like, this just sounds like a rich guy's pet project.
You missed the hook.
Inside the absurd groundbreaking for show, San Francisco's ostentatious club restaurant.
For show. Why this is a tech story is this is going to be like a really, really, really expensive, high-end.
Insanely expensive,
right.
In fact.
And it's going to be like 6 months to get a table, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's membership based too. So they were like, we have some stuff that's public, but most of it's going to be for members only.
High-end sushi restaurant. And that membership is why it's a tech story. Because your membership is going to be a non-fungible token.
Okay, I missed that. I was like, because he said it was going to be what, 7,000?
It's tiered.
Yeah.
The lowest is 7,500. The highest, 300,000.
And they said that there was only going to be like 10 to 20, 300,000 slots.
But here's the thing about it. Originally it was 10. They went to 20 because there was interest. There was more than 10 people
who were like, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, whoever wrote this article, they made sure to point out all his designer clothes. Like they were like, he's wearing McQueen shoes, and I was like, oh, that's an haute couture.
Well, it's a kind of cooking. I can't remember what the name of it was. Do you?
Mm-mm.
But so they explained that quote later. Instead of hibachi, where they're cooking on a grill, this is that same kind of thing, but on an open flame in front of you.
I don't care how good the food is. It's not worth 300,000 to me.
300,000.
It's more than my house. That'd pay my house twice over.
300,000 doesn't get you any food. That just gets you a table. Probably any time you want.
Well, yeah, I think the 300,000 tier also gets you a trip to Japan.
Right. Yes.
So
a once in a lifetime dining experience in Japan.
There's part of me that just reads it's like this is people with more money than sense.
members are actually investors in the restaurant, I don't think they're going to pay you any dividends.
No. I love whoever wrote this article was very snarky about it, and it was very funny.
This was, if you came to the press event, you got free sushi, but the guy was quick to point out, he's like, you better eat as much of that as you can, because next time it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, the owner said that.
Also, you get to take your hard hat home. But the reporter
What a waste.
mentioned how most people just put theirs back in the bucket, because who wants a hard hat to carry around all day? Crazy. Yeah, I wonder if the wealth gap will shrink at all in the coming storm.
It never does. It always goes more to the top.
Well, there was that one time in France that it didn't.
The architect's renderings were very pretty, but again, it's just like, is this what we need right now? Is ostentatious flexing of wealth really the message you want to send to a struggling America right now?
Oh, listen, it's San Francisco. They don't know what they're doing there. Now, we've learned about electric planes and people have been experimenting with them, but we have a new milestone.
World's first commercial electric plane completes point-to-point flight. I think this was to Vancouver Island.
So they had tested this guy before over the water, but always to come back to the same place. Now they have actually gone to another place. And they claimed that they had a ton of juice left after that flight.
That's pretty cool.
I gotta think it's going to be harder to fix that if you're out in the Alaskan bush and it breaks down.
Why?
Because maybe it's less complicated.
I was gonna say, because I feel like gasoline is kind of a more rare resource in some ways, but I can't imagine it being. I'd imagine it'd be similar and not necessarily like one being more difficult than the other.
I suppose it's also true that just running a propeller, an electric engine would be way better for that.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have a gasoline, like a hybrid backup.
I don't know. It didn't say in the article. I would assume probably not, since they're trying to test it purely on electric.
If I were going to take one to the Alaskan bush, I would say like, hey guys, let's install a backup.
Let's have a generator.
Recharging issue.
Yeah.
I would like to take some diesel with me. And as we mentioned, car prices, they're a little high. And it seems like the car companies will probably hit a bit of a snag going forward. I don't think a lot of people have money in the budget for a new car. Maybe you're saving up for that EV. You have to save 5 times as long. But Lincoln, which is a company that you don't hear a lot from, has a hell of a clickbait headline.
Lincoln envisions a future where driving is literal child's play. This is maybe the worst UI I've ever seen.
Yeah.
For driving a vehicle.
What do you think about the giant suicide doors? How does that work in a parking lot?
I don't have strong feelings about the aesthetics of vehicles. I know you do, so I was interested to hear what you thought about how this looked.
Well, this is completely unrealistic. They're never going to make this car.
Yeah.
Like, these doors are ridiculous.
I just don't... It's just giant planes of glass. Like, you hit one bank of gravel, and it's just...
I don't know if it's like weather stripping or if that's just a more expensive thing to do, but I don't understand why we're not all using vertical doors at this point. It solves so many problems.
Are they harder to repair, maybe?
I don't know. So here's the big selling point, though. This is what you're talking about.
This is absurd. This is the stupid. It's like using a mouse to drive.
I couldn't quite understand, though. So it sounds like maybe this screen is going to be a map
of the area around you.
But look how big the mouse is. How would you have any kind of fine control?
Think about every driving game like GTA. Everyone's always like, oh, it's so much better to play with like a controller.
Yeah.
No one wants to play and drive with a mouse.
But I don't even know if this is going to be like driving in GTA with a mouse. I think it's more like
zooming a car like a child.
Maybe. That's how they describe it, but do you want that on the roads?
Yeah, I also thought that would be insanely... Because when you're playing with cars as a child, usually you crash the cars. That's the fun part. But you don't want to do that with your big fancy Lincoln.
Now here's the mock-up before they actually built it, and you can see how they have... That makes me think that this is fixed, right? And it's moving on springs.
Maybe?
Which is...
There was no video, I don't think. Oh, maybe there was? Oh, no. There's just photos.
It makes no sense. It's clickbait, I guess.
Yeah, Lincoln's like, we really want our name in the headlines, so let's just put out these weird concepts.
But I think ultimately it might be self-driving, but you get some input with that thing somehow. I don't know exactly how that would work. I don't think they do either.
Do you think, how long before Musk says he wants to do it? Wildly impractical, but...
We know you love the touchscreens. We're adding a mouse. Except he doesn't, it's just loose. So when you take a hard turn, it just flies up.
Flies off and then your car careens off of a cliff.
And speaking of Musk, last week we talked about the company that was like, yeah, we're putting satellites in space to do cell phones. Won't that be amazing? And Elon Musk was like, that is amazing.
Musk's SpaceX and T-Mobile plan to connect mobile phones to satellites and boost cell coverage.
The good news here, you don't need a new phone. Well, so they claim.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different kind of satellite that they're going to put up there that has a much bigger dish and is able to pinpoint individual phones. What do you think that'll have to do for surveillance?
Nothing good.
I actually had a spammer. I talk to the spammers, the call spammers.
I don't know why.
I like to engage them. And, they always give you the weird Western name. And it was like, oh, this is Leo? And I was like, your name's not Leo. And he didn't know what to do with that. But that is what they're trying to solve here, which is why? How would this improve the world? This is, at best, racist, and at worst, malicious.
Sanas, I guess,
Sanas?
The buzzy Bay Area startup that wants to make the world sound whiter. Ugh. Let's homogenize language even more.
Pretty good stock photo, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good little piece there.
So yeah, you can listen to, they have, if you want to go listen to the
samples.
You can actually see the guy speaking. You just see his mouth. And then you can switch back and forth between the original and the Sanas rebranded. It does a pretty good job, but there's a lot of artifacts. You can still hear there's like a tinny quality to it. Although from a call center, the quality is usually pretty bad anyway.
Yeah. Be you. Except better.
You're not being you. You're being something else. You're being what Sanas wants you to be.
This is an erasure of Appalachian culture and language.
Well, do you think eventually they'll have targeted dialects based on the area code?
Probably. Maybe.
Like you call Eastern Kentucky, you get the hick voice?
I just want to talk to you about your car insurance real quick.
That'd be great if it put the little colloquialisms in there. You like where it just like it injects y'all.
Oh yeah. That's actually a thing I've noticed when I watch like television shows that are supposed to be based here, is that they'll have the accent, but they never use any of like the local phrases and stuff, because you can tell the writers have no idea.
It'd be great if it's like the Indian guy's like, well, do you have any childrens? And it's like, y'all got youngins?
Chillins?
This is maybe something you'd be interested in, Krista.
I thought this was pretty cool.
This is going to, once again, we have further removed the skill penalty for photography. Anybody can take a great picture.
Google Research AI image noise reduction is out of this world. Interestingly, some of the images, like this one looks a lot better than what it did because they cleaned up all of the like ISO noise in it. But some of the ones here, like the candle image in the video, I actually think it looked better before. They added too much light to the image, I think the AI did.
But they did remove the grain.
They did remove the grain. The grain removal is great.
You might be experiencing a little uncanny valley without the grain, you know?
Maybe. I think too, though, but in the video, they added so much light to it that it didn't look natural or like how a candle would actually look if something was lit by candlelight.
Well, this is not available to the public yet, so
yeah,
they've got time to work on it. Maybe you should go and write them a note.
Hi, I actually really like the shadows in the original image, and I would like to preserve them.
But check out the video. I won't play it because,
it's long. Yeah, but it's cool.
YouTube will punish us for that, but it is very interesting to see what it can do, and it's very impressive. And we have another AI that can detect medical conditions without really any, there's nothing you can do to stop this.
Yeah.
If you fall asleep on a park bench and Google has one of these nearby listening.
Artificial intelligence model can detect Parkinson's from breathing patterns. When I was reading this article, I was like, what if I'm breathing Parkinson's right now?
You know what? When you're doing the sand walk to avoid the the cameras,
detection.
you're going to have to be doing like yoga breath at the same time to hide your medical conditions.
Someone needs to write some really good dystopian fiction but it's like just absurd like that.
Can you imagine, somebody's like going down the street like you're doing, you're like making the monkey arms and breathing crazy, and you're like, oh my God, a master spy. No one's ever done it that well. And Wikipedia, we've seen a lot of politicization. That's a word, right?
Yeah.
Of Wikipedia. People using it to push narratives.
Either way, yeah.
The most recent one was the recession. Wikipedia. We decided recession.
It's not a recession. We've changed it.
Recession had been 2 quarters of non-growth, of negative growth for a long time. And then all of a sudden we had that. And everybody was like, no, that's not what it is. And they're like, well, I'm going to go to Wikipedia. Hey, wait a minute.
And then there was like a fight back and forth between people changing it.
So how do you fix it? Well, in the worst possible way.
Meta wants to supercharge Wikipedia with an AI upgrade. The problem, once again, is who is the one who decides what sources are true and right.
Well, that's what this AI is going to do. So they claim, and I don't believe this at all, that this AI will go to your Wikipedia article, it will look at all the sources, and it will be able to tell if those sources are actually about the topic of the article.
Right.
And say what they claim to say.
Well, and the person who wrote this said that, you could, in theory, make your own websites and try to paint a picture of yourself that's fake, and then because it has a source it will look legit, and this is trying to combat that. But again, then you have that moment of like, is it going to weight New York Times higher than a personal website or vice versa?
Yes.
Like, how do you determine that?
No question. There will be, just like Twitter and Facebook and everything else, there will be a human
who has to try to make that assessment. And I just don't know.
Well, then they won't be making the assessment, but they'll be massaging and deciding what narrative to believe and what not to believe. Because how else can you do it?
Right. But I mean, even just like benign things like, is this person who they say they are? If they don't have a credential from a large organization, will they be considered, not legitimate?
They will be kicked off of Twitter or Wikipedia and Gmail, and they will be jailed.
It makes you kind of look at the constant monopolization of all of our industries in a different light, where it's like, oh, you don't work for Disney Plus or Amazon? Well, then are you legitimate? Do you deserve a Wikipedia page? And it's like, ooh. And
you realize that we've gotten to a point where a very, very large number of people use that for all of their knowledge.
Yeah.
If they need to know something.
I do tend to look at Wikipedia if I'm just trying to get a quick overview of something. Yeah.
But you won't get the right definition of recession there. And going forward, sounds like more and more stuff won't be correct. I do find that the more time I spend online, the more I'm sitting here thinking, is this just a bot? Is this just a marketing campaign? Who's saying this? Yeah. Is this even real? And then I cut my hand and put it on the glass of a mirror, Am I real? You ever get any response from that? No. We've established that you're not a big football fan. No, not even a little. I imagine you didn't spend a lot of time on the football field in high school? No. So you probably didn't see like all the tackling equipment, the training equipment and stuff they've got? No. They used to have, the old stuff was just all regular, just big hunks of steel that you'd ram your shoulders and head into, which seems like a bad idea in retrospect. But we are moving into the robot age. This robot quarterback could be the future of football practice. I wasn't that impressed by this. I'm going to risk a little bit of video here. Because you kind of need to see it throw it. Boom. I kind of laughed at this because I did play softball, and we had pitching machines for years when I was a kid. Well, it's a lot harder to pitch a football than it is a softball. So, that's impressive, but I'm like, is that really groundbreaking? We've seen that in other sports. This guy will also, targeting is a big part of it. So you can actually program where you want, and it doesn't just pass, it also kicks. Oh, okay. The kicking is more impressive, I think, than the softball, because the softball does the same thing. You tell it where to go, and you put it in the machine, and it, boom, pitches for you. They didn't say how much they cost. I'm sure very, very expensive. Oh, no, I'm sorry, they did. Each robot costs $40,000 to $50,000 per year and it's a service agreement. You don't buy it.
Oh, God. And you know, college, well, they'll pay for it.
College, there'll be high schools that have these.
That's obscene.
There'll be high schools.
Think about how bad quality, like, things in your high school were, and like
Library.
how buildings were falling apart, and yeah, like we don't have enough money for textbooks, but they'll find money for this.
They're like music and art. Well, we're not sure we need those, but let's get the $50,000 passing robot for the football team. But now the argument on the other side of that is it does bring in money. It makes money.
I guess
Sports makes money.
I don't know if it makes that much.
The James Webb Telescope continues to impress.
Yeah, this was a great. James Webb Telescope captures surreal images of Jupiter's auras. It's very
Boom.
hippie. That is amazing. I was like, wow, it looks like a mood ring.
Don't you think with the red and the green kind of on the edges, it looks kind of like that TikTok vibe?
Well,
Like
I mean,
that 3D.
yeah, a little bit. I could see that. That would be a cool picture on a T-shirt.
Look at this swirl down here. I bet
That's the big red
something-
spot.
That's something crazy.
That's the big red spot. That's where the megastorm that's been on Jupiter for years and years and years, ever since we first observed it, is.
And finally, this is almost too hot for YouTube because the conversation will obviously go to a place that we're not allowed to talk about, which is how was this trained?
Yeah.
Where did this learn its behavior from?
Capitol Records forced to drop its artificial intelligence created rapper after just 1 week following gross stereotypes backlash.
It's just, it's horrific.
It's uncanny valley. It feels like a cyberpunk character, like it was
Yeah.
generated from Cyberpunk 2077.
Look at this bling.
Oh, they call it drip now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow.
For the Gen Z, it's drip.
When did that change?
Like a few months ago.
Now, this guy released a single, Florida Water, on August 12th, featuring a Fortnite gamer, Clicks. You have any idea who Clicks is?
I don't play Fortnite.
Atlanta rapper Gunna, not aware of Gunna, has 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, except you cannot listen to Florida Water on Spotify.
Anymore.
Or anywhere. All the social medias have taken it down. Because apparently he is a stereotype. And I think he used...
He used some inappropriate language.
We're not allowed to say an N-word on our thing, but it's not that N-word that he said. He said the worst N-word.
Yeah.
I think. I didn't listen to it.
No, I saw this from a different outlet, and they said it was the N-word.
I'm curious. Now, the people that came after them, they were like, you must drop this artist immediately. But he's not real.
That's so bizarre. Some friends and I were talking about this article, and my friend was like, "The Onion's going to go out of business. Like they can't outcompete this."
Well, I get a lot of my nonsense articles, which this is not even. This was in the nonsense section.
And then it was like, "Well, technically, it's Robot."
And I was like,
because we just did a story in Robot about AI musicians.
But I often will. I go from several sources, but one of the big ones is the Not the Onion subreddit.
Yeah.
Because those are the nonsense stories. But this is not wildly different than remember the Chinese social media girl,
the
and
Korean,
the
the
K-pop
Korean ones, yeah.
So
they can control them better. That's what they wanted. But it's funny because with what they've trained it on, it's like the Matrix, right? Like our brains don't accept pop stars who aren't awful human beings because they've been trained on data sets where they're awful human beings.
I think with pop stars, it's more that they're uncannily beautiful. Now this
person's not particular. This thing.
You're not a big fan of rap, right?
Not hugely, no.
But here's the thing in my mind, and I like older stuff, so this is maybe a bias toward that. If you retrained him, but you only gave him rap music that never uses the N-word, it would be terrible. The music would be terrible. What rapper has ever been really great that didn't use the N-word?
I'm even thinking, like, I do like a few, like, hip-hop acts.
You'd have to go back to, like, Grandmaster Flash, Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, it'd be white rap.
The Beastie Boys.
That's kind of a weird, unintended consequence. Wow.
Didn't even think about that. So funny. Because you're fighting racism, you would remove the blackness from the AI black man. Because that's
bizarre.
unacceptable.
Well, Wow.
Yeah, we're skating on the edge right now.
That's strange. What a
Tell
weird
us-
conversation we have to think about now.
Very carefully,
Oh, they're going to say terrible things because YouTube comments.
very carefully wordsmith your response to this article.
It's bizarre. Living in a weird timeline. Anyway, we'll see you guys on Friday.